All right, today we are going to be talking about the distributive property. And I know you guys have already written down this definition in your Frayer notebook, or you should have, but I just want to go over it again. It is multiplying a sum or difference by a number is the same as multiplying each number in the sum or difference by the number and adding or subtracting the products. Okay, that's a lot of words, but we're going to break it down and do several examples so that you can see what the distributive property really is. So make sure you have your spirals. You're going to need a pencil and then three different colored pencils or pens. Markers, if they're skinny markers, might work, but we're going to be doing some color coding so you can see, hopefully to help see how the distributive property works. And again, if at any time you need to pause and rewatch, that's what this video is for. Okay, so you do not need to write down the definition because you should already have that. If you do not have the definition, go ahead and put it in your notes. But at the top of your page, it should say 3.5 distributive property. Okay, these are the notes I want you to write down. Properties are useful because they can help us simplify computations and complete mental math in an easier way. So we've spent time working with commutative property, associative property, identity property, and the zero property. And the identity and zero properties are specific to multiplication, but knowledge of all these properties can hopefully help you when you're doing mental math. So distributive property is another way to simplify multiplication so that you can do it mentally. Okay? Make sure you have all of these notes. All right. So we're going to break down this definition. Go ahead and copy down this problem. 12 times the quantity, 300 plus 8. And I want you to have the 12 in one color and this in another color. It doesn't have to be green and red, but just make sure that your colors match up. Okay, so now let's break down the definition. Multiplying a sum, so here we have a sum, right? 300 plus 8 would give us a sum of 308. So multiplying this sum by a number, which our number in this case is 12, is the same as multiplying each number in the sum by this number in green. Okay, so multiplying this sum by a number is the same as multiplying each number in the sum by the number. So basically think of the distributive property as you distribute this 12 out to each number in the sum. All right, so we're going to do 12 times 300, and I'm going to go back to this screen, and this is where you use your knowledge of basic facts. So 12 times 3 is 36, and then I count my zeros in the factors, so I have 3600. And 12 times 8, I distribute this 12 to both numbers in the sum. 12 times 8 is 72. Then you add the products. So here's one product, here's another. I get 3,672. Okay, so multiplying this all out is the same as distributing the 12 to each number in the sum. Okay, so this problem is really 12 times 308. Take my shade here. Okay, so this is another way to write that exact same number. We took 308 and broke it down into 300 plus 8. So now we're going to work through some examples. The first one is 7 times 420. I want you to write that down in your notebook. Okay? Obviously, we're going to leave the 7 alone, but we're going to take 420 and break it down into two numbers that are easier to work with. Can you predict what numbers those would be? If you said 420, you would be right. So we're going to have a number, and we're going to distribute it out to this 400, and we're going to distribute it out to this 20. Okay? Oh, there's my pretty arrows. Let me erase these blue ones. Whoops! So, I've got my basic fact now. 7 times 4, which is 28. And then 2 zeros in the factors. And then I've got 7 times 2, which is 14. And I have 1 0. And now these numbers are pretty easy for me to add mentally. I get 2,940. okay? This is an example of how you take an expression, this is called an expression, and you rewrite it using distributive property to help you add mentally. Okay? So notice I don't have to type out 420 times 7, whoops, this way and work it out the long way. Okay? I can use distributive property to help me do this a little bit more quickly. Let's do another example. So number 2, go ahead and copy this number. 509 times 11. Now, think about how you would break up, or which number you would break up. If you said 509, you are correct. And this is just to show you that the number doesn't always have to be in front. You can distribute from this side or this side. So we're going to take the number 11 and distribute it out to the 500 and to the 9. And notice we're adding, so you have to make sure that that's what you're doing in the middle. So I'm going to do 11 times 500. I'm going to do 11 times 9, and then you add those two. So go with your basic facts. You've got 5 times 11, which is 55. Add 2 zeros. You've got 9 times 11, which hopefully you know through basic facts is 99. Then you add those two numbers. You should get 5,599. Okay? We're going to do one more that's a little trickier. And again, stop, pause, rewind, however you need to. Go ahead and copy this number, 12 times 47. Now, this one I took straight out of your book because it's a little different than the first two examples that we've done. So when you're thinking about what to break apart, I mean 12 times 40, 12 times 7, neither one to me is a super easy compatible number, so I'm going to represent this 47 in a different way. Okay? I'm going to do 12 times 50 minus 3 because isn't this quantity the same value as 47? Technically, yes. So my product is not going to change, just the way that I get to the product looks a little different. So now I can distribute my 12 out to both numbers, 12 times 50 and 12 times 3. Okay, but the difference is since I'm subtracting, I'm going to have to subtract the products instead of adding them. And the distributive property works the exact same way. So I've got my basic fact, 12 times 5, which is 60. Then I add one more 0. And 12 times 3, which is your basic fact. So 600 minus 36, which gives you 564. Okay? Now I know that one looks a little bit different, but think about it. 12 times 47 is the same as, so it's equal to, 12 times 50 minus 3. Because what's the value in here? It's still 47. Okay? One more example, and I want you to try and predict and pause as you go. I'll tell you when to pause, and break it apart like you think you need to. Okay, so go ahead and copy down the problem, and then pause and think about which of these factors are you going to break apart, and which number are you going to use to distribute. Okay, so if you picked 101, that's probably going to be the easiest number to break apart. Okay, so then you're dealing with 101, and pretty much you're just using the identity property to make this problem a little easier. So the 23 is what you're distributing. Okay, so go ahead and write out the next line of this problem. You're going to have what times what plus what times what. Pause it. Okay, if you wrote this out, you are correct. You distributed this 23 out. You're going to have 23 times 100 plus 23 times 1. And then find the products, add them, and go ahead and get your final answer. Okay, so when we are doing these practice problems, it's my expectation that you write out each step. Okay, when you try to go from this step to this step, my arrow's not very good, but when you try to skip a step and you don't write out each step of the problem, that's how easy mistakes are made, and that's how people get problems wrong. So as we practice the distributive property, make sure you take your time. It's going to take up quite a bit of paper, and that's okay, because I would rather have you get the problems correct and understand the process than be worried about skipping right to the answer. So now you're going to practice on your own. It says rewrite each expression using distributive property. Okay, so I want you to go ahead and copy down number 1 and do those steps. So you might want to have number 1 and then go across number 2, and then the problems should be vertically. So you're going to copy down the problem, then show the next step, the next step, the next step, the next step, until you finally get down to your final answer. Okay? Make sure that you keep your work nice and neat, and this is what we will check tomorrow in class.